Guys, so VoidLinux, some people have been asking me to try it. I'm gonna install it for you guys. I have been playing around with it. I'm not massively impressed, but let's go along with it. So VoidLinux, as I understand, is a bit different to say Arch Linux because number one, they've rejected systemd, and to be honest, I sometimes don't like systemd myself, so I do wonder what life could be without systemd. So let's give it a try. And another thing that's interesting about it is that they use muscle libc. Oh no, just typed in the password incorrectly. Oh god, the initial font is just so small, so I kind of have to blindly install Terminus font. The spacebar is a bit weird. I hate this. Please, if you're making a list distribution, make the font large to begin with. It's like on 4K screens and modern screens, and it's just a nightmare otherwise. Okay, set font TERV32N. Oh no, this is spacebar is a bit crap. Okay, here we go. Yay, we got a big font. So, VoidLinux. Look, actually, I was surprised that there is a glibc version. That's the GNU libc, the bloated version. That's the one most people are familiar with. And the short story, I think, with Muscle is that it mostly works. It's leaner, it's meaner, but more complex applications like browsers depend on glibc bugs and hence don't work so well. Surprise! So VoidLinux has this sort of dialogue-based installer, which I'm not very keen on. I prefer the sort of doing it yourself CLI Arch Linux method. But anyway, let's go through it. Like for example, this thing is like what do I choose here? This is like useless. I already have network, so I don't see the point of setting it up here. I always prefer just to be able to strap it with the boot thing over the network, and then update the system. But anyway, there's a choice there. Host name, I think I called the machine Knuckles because this is a Intel NUC, an old one. Another reason I'm using I'm happy to try VoidLinux is that I like to have a heterogeneous environment. I don't want everything to be Arch. I want to see how other distributions, what stable kernel they're using. I like to study and compare. Otherwise, you need this heterogeneous environment. Having a monoculture is really quite bad. Locale doesn't seem to work. Time zone. I can't be bothered to choose Singapore. Root password. I'm telling you guys. User account. Again, I think Ubuntu gets this right. I really don't actually like setting up the root password. I prefer just to set up like a super user user account in my name. But when I'm using this dialog here, it doesn't seem to give me like a wheel group to put this in. It's got all these old school group names, and like systems nowadays aren't multi-user anymore. There's containers or something like that. Oh, there is wheel. I'm in wheel. Okay, fine. Forget what I said. Bootloader, STA. STA is the disk here. Okay, so now this is where it gets tricky. I had to read this a few times. Like it says toggle boot, but I don't actually see this toggle. So let's just pretend it's just blank. So this is what you should. Well, if you had a brand new hard drive, maybe it would look like this. Probably not. I've already got this label GPT, so maybe I've toggled this GPT thing. this is a UEFI system, so this GPT flags and things like that confuse me a little bit. I'm not too sure about it, but the way I understand it is that you do need a boot partition for UEFI. So I'm creating it here. The type is UEFI system, and the rest of it is, it's just one big file system for Linux. I mean, people split it up. And people also create a swap thing. I really think it's kind of unnecessary. I'm a big fan of just keeping all in one big thing nowadays. I was even reading that Grub can mount an encrypted Lux systems nowadays. So, oh yeah, let me get onto Grub because I'm not a fan of Grub. Okay, I think that's right. Yes, let's move on, shall we? Okay, this is where it gets tricky. This is where I missed it. You have to create you have to create the slash, what do you call it, the root file system before the slash boot slash EFI system. So you see, create this one before. Yep, that's ext4. SDA1, that needs to be vfat. And this is slash boot slash EFI. Okay, yes. So it's done. So the last step is install. So the settings here. Oh, you can see my password. Shit. Okay, this mount pointer. You see how I'm setting up the root before the slash boot EFI. That's the important thing. Those last 4 lines. Not. Okay, now it's going to install. What else I was going to mention? I would prefer, I mean, if this is suckless, I would prefer to use syslinux instead of grub2. I really hate grub2. What else is there to mention? I think the VoidLinux community is a bit, what do you call it? A bit snobby, so I have to figure out a lot of things myself. I don't really this is not something for noobs. This is for real advanced geek boys who are just keen to see what fundamental things can be done, I guess, especially with muscle. And it'd be interesting to play around with RUnit, the sort of, what do you call it, the sysv init daemon manager, or whatever it's called. And what else will be interesting? I guess maybe the package manager might be of interest to have a look at. This Pacman, I think some people have moaned that it's a bit complex. So I'm taking out the boot disk. It's out. Let's see if this worked. Oh my god, I've spent enough time on this already. Grub, and of course a tiny font. Sorry about that. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. You know, the system's booting. I have to probably set up the keyboard and all sorts of other things. It seems to be running SSH by default. Anyway, I just thought I'd make a video just to show you I am giving other things a consideration, and I guess a Bitcoin D on this or something like that, using RUnit or whatever it's called. So if you know better, please let me know in the comments. If you like what I showed you here, or more of it, just give me a like, and thanks guys for watching.